I've seen it have more than. Hello and welcome to Focus Church. Today is Easter and we are celebrating the resurrected Jesus today here. So thank you for joining us online. And if you happen to be nearby, we just want to let you know that our services today are at 11 o'clock and as well at 1 o'clock. And both of our services are going to have both English and Estonian.
Nii et tere hommikust ka minu poolt ja ta on tõesti tõusnud, milline hea uudis. Mul on hea meel, et sa saad meiega täna liituda ja kui sa ei ole väga kaugel Tehnika tänavast number 18, siis meil on täna 2 teenistust, kell 11 ja kell 1 ja mõlemad teenistused on nii eesti kui inglise keeles.
And don't forget, like always, we always have hot coffee, so feel free to join us. The weather is beautiful and it would be amazing to see you. Of course, you can also enjoy the service from the comfort of your living room wherever you are. So grab some coffee or some tea and get ready for our service today about the risen Jesus. So, Pastor Kristen, what are some of the things that people can expect from today's service?
No, kõigepealt ma ütlen, mis Rodney ütles, et me loodame tõesti, et teil on huvitav täna kuulata, räägime sellest, et Jeesus on tõesti tõusnud ja miks ta on tõusnud ja miks see meile nii oluline. Ja ma loodan, et ka seal kodus te saate seda nautida, kui te ei saa liiga kaugel on täna siia kohale tulla, siis loodetavasti teil on ka seal mõnus pühapäev tähistamiseks valmis pandud. Ja Rodney küsis mu käest, what did you ask again?
What can people expect today from today's service?
Mida täna oodata saate? Saate oodata, et meil on natuke teistmoodi ja rohkem ülistust. Meil on sõnum natuke teistmoodi üles ehitatud, sest me teeme seda mõlemas keeles ja lastele on midagi erilist, aga seda saavad teada ainult need lapsed, kes siin kohapeal on.
All right, it sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun today, and I don't know if you caught that or not, but we're actually doing everything today in 2 languages. This is going to be fun, isn't it? Well, at least from our perspective, we hope that you will enjoy the service as we do everything in both English and Estonian so that you're able to participate in whatever language that you want to have today. And of course, you heard there's going to be some amazing worship today as well as a special program for children. The weather looks great today, so it looks like everything is it's going to be amazing. And we're going to talk about today the resurrected Jesus. And we're going to talk about how the resurrection, it changes everything. So, Pastor Kristen, how has the resurrection changed your life?
Ja tõesti on nii, et ülestõusmine muudab kõike. Ja see on kindlasti muutnud ka minu elu, ma kindlasti ei seisaks täna siin, kui seda ei oleks toimunud ja meil ei oleks ka mingit põhjust täna seda online teha. So my life is definitely touched by it. I wouldn't be here today if that hadn't happened and we would have no reason to gather. And on that note, we are going to go and get ready for the service now and you also have a couple of minutes. So we will hopefully see you soon in person. So he's risen.
He is risen indeed, so come and join us. Tehnika 18, Tehnika 18, kell 11, kell 11 or 1 o'clock. It's your choice. We would love to see you or enjoy from the comfort of your living room. Have a great Sunday morning and enjoy what God has done for you.
got it wrong. Yeah. Was I ever your hero when you needed me once? It's okay, you never needed me. I should've known for once.
Good morning everyone and welcome to Focus Church. Happy Easter!
tere tulemast kõik, tere tulemast, head hommikut, häid ülestõusmispühi,
Let's worship together.
ülistame koos.
Who breaks the power of sin and darkness? Whose love is mighty and so much stronger? The King of glory, the King above all kings. Who shakes the whole earth with holy thunder? Who leaves us breathless in awe and wonder? The King of glory, the King above all kings. This is amazing grace. This is unfailing love. That you would take my place. That you would bear my cross. You laid down your life. That I would be set free. Oh, Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me. Who brings our chaos? Who brings our chaos back into order? Who makes the orphan a son and daughter? The King of glory, the King of glory, who rules the nations with truth and justice, shines like the sun in all of its brilliance. The King of glory, the King above all kings. Oh, this is amazing grace. This is unfailing love. That you would take my place. Oh, that you would bear my cross. You laid down your life. That I would be set free. Oh, Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me. We're singing worthy. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy is the King who conquered the grave. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy is the King who conquered the grave. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy is the King who conquered the grave. And worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy, worthy, worthy. Oh, this is amazing grace. This is unfailing love. you've done for me. All that you've done for me. All that you've done for me. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus.
siin maailmas. Hosanna, Hosanna, Hosanna kõige kõrgem. Hosanna, Hosanna, Hosanna kõige kõrgem. Hosanna kõige kõrgem. Hosanna kõige kõrgem.
You guys are welcome to grab a seat.
Te võite istuda, tunda ennast mugavalt.
tere hommikust!
Good morning.
Nii et täna me oleme kakskeelsed.
So today we're going to do it in 2 languages.
Nii et kõigil on võimalus õppida seda keelt, mida ei tea.
So this is an opportunity to learn some language.
Minu nimi on Kristin, ma olen Focus koguduses juhtpastor.
So she's Kristen, and she is the active pastor here at Focus Church. Yeah, and I'm Rodney, and who's one of the pastors here at Focus Church, and happy to be here today.
Ja siin on meil Rodney, kes on siis ka üks Focuse õpetajaid pastoreid ja tal on hea meel siin täna hommikul olla. Miks sa siin täna oled? See on küsimus, mida tasub küsida, sest sellises ruumis, kus meil on täis inimesi üle terve maailma, siis meil on kindlasti hulgaliselt erinevaid vastuseid.
So let's ask a question. Why are you here today? It's a question, actually, it's worth asking. In a room full of people like this, we are bound to have a myriad of answers to the question.
Mõned teist on täna siin armastusest Jumala vastu. Mõned teist on täna siin armastusest kogukonna vastu. Mõned teist on täna siin, sest käes on ülestõusmispühad.
Some of you are here today because you have a love for God. Some of you are here because you have a love for being in community. And some of you are here simply because, well, it's Easter.
Ja mõned on siin sellepärast, et see on hea võimalus kodus lahkumiseks. Mõni on siin sellepärast, et sa oled sugulane kellegiga. Mõni on siin sellepärast, et siin on linnakuulsaim hea kohvi. Ja mõni on siin sellepärast, et tal on kas siin sõbrad või isegi mõni eriline inimene.
For some of you, it's a chance to, let's say, leave the house. For some who are here today, it's because you've been invited. Or maybe you're here because you heard about our famous coffee that we have here at Focus Church. And for some of you, maybe you're here for a chance to meet up with a friend, or maybe have a chance to bump into a love interest.
Aga tegelikult see ei ole oluline, kõik need põhjused võivad olla ka kõik koos. Täna on ülestõusmispüha, mis on kristliku kalendri üks suur ja tähtis päev, kõige tähtsam võime isegi öelda, ja me tähistame täna Jeesus Kristuse ülestõusmist.
Well, regardless of why you have come today is Easter Sunday. This is the big day on the Christian calendar, and we are celebrating the resurrection of Jesus Christ.
Ja nii nagu meil kõigil täna siin on võib-olla erinevad põhjused, miks me siia tulime, siis on tegelikult meil kõigil ka omamoodi arusaam, miks ja kuidas tegelikult Kristus üles tõusis, mida see üldse kõik tähendab.
And just like we have many different reasons for being here today, and we also have many different understandings about how we see the resurrection and what its meaning is.
Siin on neid, kes usuvad, et see tõesti juhtuski nii, täpselt nii, nagu Piiblis kirjas on. Siin on neid, kes pole päris kindlad. Meie seas on ka neid, kes ütlevad, et see oli vaimne, see oli puhtalt vaimne, et Jeesus naasis, aga ainult vaimus, just kui nagu Kasper, see sõbralik tont.
So some of you here, you believe in the resurrection. Some of us here, we might be a little bit unsure about what it is. For some of us, we might even have this understanding that maybe it's only a spiritual reality and maybe Jesus was just simply came back as a spirit, like Casper the Friendly Ghost.
ja mõned meist on kindlasti kuskil seal vahepeal. Sa usud, et see moraal, mida Jeesus õpetas, oli väga hea, aga see üleloomulik füüsiline ülestõusmine, see on natuke siuke.
So some of us might be somewhere in between. You believe in the morality of Jesus, but not in the supernatural aspect of the physical resurrection.
Aga tegelikult me ei räägi sellest niisama, see on tegelikult tähtis mõte, sest kogu see jutt taandub sellele, et see kas vastab tõele või see ei vasta tõele. Kristlus on kas tõsi või mitte. Ilma kindluseta see lihtsalt ei saa eksisteerida.
But what it really comes down to is this: is it true? It's either true or not. Christianity, it's either one or the other. It's either true or not. And without certainty, we don't know.
Ja ülestõusmine on ju tegelikult, kui see on tõsi, siis on see elu muutev reaalsus. Võtame näiteks kas või lennukiga lendamise. Enne kui sa lennukisse maha istud, ma usun, et sa tahad päris kindel olla, kas see lennuk ka tegelikult lendab või mitte. See vahepealne ei ole hea variant.
So the resurrection is a life-changing reality. Think of it this way. Think of it like an airplane. A plane can either fly or it can't fly. And we need to have the confidence to believe that it can fly or not before we're even willing to take a seat on the airplane. So what do we need to be certain of the resurrection?
Mida me siis vajame, et olla kindlad ülestõusmiseks? Tõe kindlaks tegemine nõuab tõendeid.
So determining whether it's true or not, it requires evidence.
Kui me püüame kindlaks teha, kas miski on tõene, siis me vajame tõendit või tõestust. Täpselt nagu ka lennuki puhul ülestõusmine on tegelikult sõna otseses mõttes elu või surma küsimus.
So if we are trying to determine if something is true, we require, well, you could say proof. We need evidence, like the flight capability of an airplane. The resurrection is literally a question of either life or death.
Ja Uue Testamendis siis me loeme erinevates evangeeliumites, erinevates raamatutes, kõikidest kogemustest, mis inimestel oli Jeesuse ülestõusmisega. Me näeme seal pealtnägijate ütlusi nii Peetruse kirjades, nii Matteuse, Johannese kui ka Pauluse kirja pandud tekstides, mis kõik räägivad Jeesuse eluloost. Ja tegelikult neid ülestõusnud Jeesuse lugusid on veelgi, aga Piiblisse jõudis neid vaid üks valik.
The gospel record the resurrection accounts of Jesus. And we can read about the eyewitnesses' accounts. We can read this from such writers as Peter, Matthew, John, and Paul, their description of Jesus' life and about the resurrection. And there are even more eyewitness stories about the resurrected Jesus. Yet only a small selection were recorded in the Bible.
Paljud neist pealtnägijatest, nendest tunnistajatest surid ka oma usu tõttu, sest nad elasid elu, mis põhines ülestõusmisel. Nad tunnistasid Jeesuse ülestõusmist ja esimesi järgijaid kiusati tegelikult sellepärast päris tõsiselt taga. Ja on hea tegelikult aga tunda nagu seda privileegi, mis meil on täna siin, sest on palju paiku ka täna maailmas, kus endiselt inimesi kiusatakse taga, sest nad usuvad Jeesuse ülestõusmist.
Many of the eyewitnesses actually died for their faith because they lived a life based on the resurrection of Jesus. The first followers, they considered it actually a privilege to be persecuted for Jesus. And followers today, followers of Jesus are still being persecuted in many places of the world.
Mõtle hetkeks, kas on midagi, mille nimel sa ise oleksid nõus oma elu andma? Kas on üldse sellist asja olemas? me ei loovu nii lihtsalt oma elust, see ei ole mingi kerge asi, mida lihtsalt ära anda. Nii et me peaksime väga kindlad olema, et see, millesse me usume, on tõsi, et niimoodi riskida.
Think for a moment, what would you die for? We won't give up our life so easily unless we are sure that it is absolutely worth the sacrifice of giving up.
Kuid tegelikult enne ülestõusmist oli Jeesuse lugu hoopis teistsugune.
It was different. Before the death and resurrection of Jesus, the story of Jesus was different.
Kui me loeme Johannese evangeeliumi näiteks, siis me näeme, et keegi tegelikult ei oodanud, et Jeesus peale surma tõesti üles tõuseks. Vähemalt mitte selles otseses mõttes.
In the Gospel of John, it seemed that nobody dared to hope that Jesus would be resurrected. They prepared his body like every other dead body.
Johannese evangeeliumis me näeme, et tõepoolest, et keegi ei julgenud isegi seda loota, sest nad hoolitsesid tema keha eest nagu iga teise surnu eest. Nad puhastasid seda õliga ja mähkisid selle tihedalt ja see oli hästi tihedalt suri linade sisse ja panid ta surnu kambrisse.
Like every other dead body, they cleansed it with oils, they wrapped it tightly with linen, and they placed it in the burial tomb.
Kuid siis see juhtus. See tõesti juhtus. Ja kindlasti kõik ei saanud päris täpselt aru, kuidas see üldse võimalik oli. Aga ühes on kõik tunnistajad kindlad. Ta oli surnud ja siis ta oli elus.
And then it happened. Not everybody, understood quite what happened or how it happened, but all the witnesses agreed that he was dead and now he is alive.
Üks tihti mainitud argumente või vastuargumente Jeesuse kas siis ülestõusmise või isegi tema olemasolu kohta on see, et ei ole leitud matmispaika, millega kõik eksperdid nõus oleks. Et täpselt see oligi see, kus Jeesus siis pandi lamama. Aga kui me vaatame juudi kultuuri tollel ajal, siis tegemist on aukultuuriga. Väga austatakse inimesi ja ühe usujuhi matmispaik kindlasti ei läheks lihtsalt kaduma.
One of the arguments used against the resurrection is that no burial place of Jesus has been agreed on by anyone. In the Jewish culture where Jesus lived, it was a culture of honor. A burial place of a religious leader would not easily be lost.
Ainus seletus on, et sellel lool peab olema tõde. Jah, Jeesus on tõesti üles tõusnud ja kui keegi on üles tõusnud, siis selle asukoha märgistamine, kus ta hetkeliselt lamas paar päeva, see ei ole oluline. See ei ole oluline mäletada seda kohta, kus ta korraks maeti.
The only explanation is there is truth to the story. Yes, Jesus has risen. So it didn't really matter if they marked or preserved the grave. He's alive.
Ta on tõusnud. See on suurepärane uudis, see on hea uudis. Aga paljuseid kindlasti ikkagi endiselt vaevab seesama üks probleem ja selleks probleemiks on kahtlus. Kuidas sellest üleloomulikust sündmusest aru saada?
He has risen. This is great news. Yet many of us are still plagued with the problem. And the problem is it's doubt. How to wrap our minds around this supernatural event.
Ja kahtluseid on kahte sorti. On kahtlus, kas Jeesus on tõesti see, kes ta väidab, et olevat. Ja on kahtlusi, kas sina oled ikkagi see, kes Jeesus väidab, et sa oled. Tead küll seda vana tõde, et sa oled Jumala laps. Ja see kõik taandub kahtlusele, kas ta on tõesti üles tõusnud.
It's doubt that Jesus is who he says he is. Doubt that you are who Jesus says you are. You know the old Christian saying that you are a child of God. It comes down to doubt about whether he has really risen or not.
Ja meie kahtlused ei ole uued. See võime ju arvata vahest, et see tunne see on sellest, et me elame sellel moodsal ajal, et meil on kõik see teadus, me oleme palju loogilisemad, me oleme palju targemad ja haritumad ja see lihtsalt ei sobi kokku. See matemaatika ei päde. Ja aga tegelikult ma nagu ma ütlesin, et kahtlused ei ole mitte midagi uut. Ka Jeesuse ajal olevad inimesed võitlesid sellega täpselt samamoodi, ka nende jaoks see ei olnud loogiline.
Our doubts, they're not new. We might think of these doubts as they're just problems of our time, the modern people, the people of science, of logic. And we might say, well, it doesn't quite add up. But doubts, actually, there are nothing new. People of his day struggled with it just like we do today. It didn't quite add up for them either.
Üks Jeesuse jünger, üks tema järgija, kes kahtles, kellel oli sellega raskusi, tema nimi oli Peetrus.
One of the disciples of Jesus who also had doubts, his name was Peter.
Luuka 22. peatükis me loeme ühte lugu, kus Jeesus räägib oma jüngritele, ta ütleb neile, et väga peagi seisavad nad silmitsi just oma kahtluse tegelikkusega. Ja Jeesus hoiatas, et kui see juhtub, et nad ei kukuks siis ära.
In Luke 22, Jesus told his disciples that they would be faced with the reality of their doubts. Yet despite their warning, Peter makes a grand proclamation, if anyone else abandons you, I won't.
Kuid Jeesuse hoiatamisele vaatamata kuulutab Peetrus suurejooneliselt. Ta ütleb, kui ka kõik teised su maha jätavad, siis mina seda ei tee. Peetrus kuulutas kindlalt, ütles, isegi kui ma pean koos sinuga surema, ei salga ma sind kunagi.
Even if I have to die with you, I will never deny you, Peter declared.
Aga nagu ikka, siis on Jeesuse ennustus õige. Nii et enne kui kukk laulab 3 korda, siis salgab Jeesus. Enne kui kukk laulab, siis salgab Peetrus Jeesust 3 korda. Jah.
Peter says, I will, even if I have to die with you, I will never deny you, he declared. Peter's prediction was correct, that before the rooster crows, Peter will deny Jesus 3 times.
Peetrus oli tegelikult Jeesusega kõndinud juba mitu aastat ja seega Jeesus teadis teda isiklikult hästi. Ta teadis, et Peetrusel läheb sellel hetkel tema järgimisega raskeks.
So Peter, who had been with Jesus for many years and he knew Jesus and Jesus knew him, knew that Peter would still struggle in this moment.
Kas võime meiegi ehk Peetrusega vahel samastuda?
Can we not also at times relate to Peter? Anyone?
Kas ka teie seas need siin, kes tunnevad, et sa oled Jeesus järgija, kas sul on olnud hetki, kus sa oled palvetanud ja sa oled lugenud sõna ja sa tunned tõesti ennast Jeesuse lähedalt, sa tunned ennast nii kindel ja sa kinnitad oma usku selles samas palves. Ja siis möödub vaid 5 minutit, kui sa juba kirgud ülemise korruse naabri lapsi, siis nad trambivad.
For those of us who are followers of Jesus, haven't we found ourselves in 1 minute and in making great claims of our dedication through prayer and worship to God, reading the Bible, and then 5 minutes later, we're cursing out the neighbor's kids upstairs for being so loud?
Peetrus eitas isegi Jeesuse tundmist ja mitte 1 kord, mitte 2 korda, tal oli aega järgi mõelda, vaid lausa 3 korda.
Peter denies knowing Jesus not once, not twice, but 3 times.
Me loeme Johannese raamatu 18. peatükis salmid 17 ja 18. Uksehoidja tüdruk ütles nüüd Peetrusele, eks sinagi ole üks selle inimese jüngreid. Tema ütles, ei ole. Aga orjad ja sulased olid teinud lõkke, sest oli külm ja seisid ning soojendasid end. Ja ka Peetrus seisis nende seas ja soojendas end.
In John chapter 18, verses 17 and 18, the servant girl at the door said to Peter, you also are not one of this man's disciples, are you? He said, I'm not. Now the servants and the officers had made a charcoal fire because it was cold, and they were standing and warming themselves. Peter also was with them, standing and warming himself.
Võime ette kujutada Jeesust seal seismas, selle tule ääres, selle lõkke ääres, kus ta seisab silmitsi selle survega ja vastata noorele teenija tüdrukule. Ja me näeme Peetruse reaktsiooni ja ta salgab Jeesust lausa 3 korda. ta isegi on kirjas vannub selle noore tüdruku kuuldes. See pole just üks pühendanud jünger, kes niimoodi tunnistab.
You can imagine Peter by the fire, warming himself, facing the pressure of answering a young servant girl's questions. And Peter's reaction is to deny Jesus 3 times. He even curses at the young girl. This is not exactly the witness of a committed disciple of Jesus.
Ja siin me näeme Peetruse olukorda enne ülestõusmist, enne kui Jeesus löödi risti. Ja Jeesuse üle mõistetakse peagi ülempreestri poolt, ülempreestri ees kohut. Jah, Peetrus armastas Jeesust, aga kui talle survet avaldati, siis üritas ta päästa enda nahka.
Remember though, this was Peter before the resurrection and even before the crucifixion. Jesus is about to be tried by the high priest here. Yes, he loved Jesus, but he bailed under external pressure.
Kas Peetrus kahtles Jeesuses? Kas ta kahtles, et ta on tõesti see, kes ta on öelnud, et ta on? Peetrus näeb, et Jeesus arreteeritakse ja et ta lüüakse risti nagu tavaline kurjategija. Kuidas saab see mees olla nende päästja? Kuidas?
Did Peter doubt that Jesus was who he said he was? That Jesus really was? He was arrested. Here Jesus being arrested. He's going to be crucified like an ordinary criminal. How could this man be the Savior? How?
Aga kas me saame siiski Peetrus täiesti hukka mõista? Pärast 3 aastat koos Jeesusega tundus see Peetrusele ilmselt, et see on selle tee lõpp. See on nüüd kõik. Ja tal oli ju tegelikult esikoht või esireas kohta, tunnistas kõike seda, nägi seda pealt, kuidas tema üle kohut mõisteti ja hiljem, kuidas ta risti löödi.
Yet can we really blame Peter here in this situation? After 3 years with Jesus, this probably felt like it was the end of the line for Jesus. Here he in terms of all the vision and mission that Jesus had given them, Peter had a front row seat to seeing Jesus tried and crucified. We can understand that Peter had doubts.
On arusaadav, et Peetrusel on kahtlusi, sügavaid kahtlusi ja selliseid kahtlusi saab ainult ümber lükata midagi nii radikaalset, midagi sellist, mille kõrval kõik Jeesuse eelnevad imed kahvatuksid.
Doubts that could only doubts so big that they could only be dismissed by something radical that would pale in comparison to all of the other things that they had seen from Jesus.
Midagi sellist nagu 3 päeva hiljem, kui veeretatakse see kivi, hauakivi koopa eest ära, see hauakivi sealt koopa eest ära, kuhu nad olid Kristuse keha pannud. Ja kuulujutt levib kulutulena. Jeesus on elus. Jeesus on elus. Jeesus on üles tõusnud. Ja just sel hetkel on inimajaloos midagi tõeliselt muutunud.
And 3 days later, the stone of the tomb had been rolled away, the place where they had laid the body of Christ. After taking the body down from the cross, the stone is now rolled away and the rumor spreads like wildfire. The rumor that Jesus is alive. Jesus is alive. Jesus has been resurrected. It is at this point that something truly has changed.
Aga kus on siis nüüd Peetrus? Ta on ju Jeesust eitanud ja selgus, et see kõik oli tõsi, see tõesti on tõsi, et Jeesus ongi Messias. Ta tõusis surnust üles, ta tegi seda, ta tõesti on seda teinud. Aga Peetrus oli temast kahelnud. Peetrus oli teda salanud, avalikult salanud, siis mis saab nüüd Peetrusest?
But what about Peter now? Peter has denied Jesus and it turned out that it was all true. Jesus really is the Messiah. Jesus is risen from the dead. He did it. It really happened. Peter had doubted him, completely rejected him, even publicly. Now, what will happen to Peter now?
Just selles samas kohas ongi just see Jeesuse ülestõusmise, see faktiline tõde nii oluline. Sest kui see ei oleks faktiliselt tõde, siis me võiks lihtsalt ukse kinni panna, võiks koju minna, te võiks seal ise oma šokolaadimune süüa rahulikult. Aga ilma selleta tegelikult ei ole ju Peetrusel lootustki. Ka meil ei ole lootust.
This is why the realness, the factual truth of the resurrection of Jesus Christ is so important. Without it, without the realness of the story, Peter would have no hope. We would close the doors on this part of history. Everything that Jesus did and said would be nothing but nice, heartwarming story.
Kõik, mis Jeesus on siiamaani teinud, oleks täiesti kadunud. Jeesuse tehtud töö ei oleks enam oluline. See oleks üks kena südant soojendav lugu. Kui me vaatame ülestõusmist, me võime seda võrrelda natukene restaureerimisprotsessiga hoonetes. Ja me näeme seda hästi palju, see on hästi populaarne üle kogu Euroopa ja meil on siin ka üks pilt.
The restoration of the resurrection is akin to the restoration process that we see in many buildings across Europe.
Ja nagu näete siin, siis ka Tallinna linn on täis sellist arhitektuurilist ilu. Me näeme neid vapustavaid hooneid, mis ükskord olid vana, aga nüüd on nad täiesti uue. Me näeme neid Kalamajas, me näeme neid Koplis, me näeme neid Kadriorus. Ja need vanad hooned ei ole mitte ainult restaureeritud, vaid nad on täiesti ümber ehitatud ja saanud ka uue otstarbe.
For many of us, we have enjoyed the architectural beauty of our city Tallinn, where old buildings have been restored. Kalamaja, Kopli, and Kadrior. Old buildings not only restored and rebuilt, but given a whole new purpose.
Meil on hästi põnevaid hooneid on ka. Meil on laod, mis on uuesti ümber ehitatud, kunagised tehase hooned, mis nüüd on kas siis korterid või on büroohooned. Ja selle protsessi nimi tegelikult, mis siin toimub, ei ole mitte restaureerimine, vaid selle nimi on regenereerimine.
Old buildings not only restored, but they're also buildings like warehouses are now given a whole new repurpose for a new life. One-time factories are now housing complexes or office buildings, a process called regeneration.
Ja läbi selle protsessi, mis toimub, on see, et taastatakse midagi, mis oli vana, restaureeritakse see, aga sellega tehakse midagi veel rohkem. Leiab aset selline nagu uuenemine, et kõik vanad head asjad nagu vundament ja võib-olla mingid seinad ja osad hoitakse alles, aga sinna lisatakse siis hästi palju uut, eemaldatakse kõik, mis on katkine, mis enam ei toimi, mis enam ei kanna, see kõik eemaldatakse ja ehitatakse sinna sisse ka täiesti uued funktsioonid. Ja nüüd meil ongi siis selline hoone, mida me saame kasutada täiesti uuel eesmärgil.
So we see something old is restored, but more so it's a renewal process, made new. The good of the old is kept. The broken, unfunctional parts are removed and new functions are put in and they're built into the process. That gives a completely new purpose.
Ja me räägime sellest selle mõttega, et see on just kui analoogiks või metafooriks sellele, kui me mõtleme, kuidas ülestõusmine toimib meie elus. Et selle mõte ei ole vaid meid taastada, meid panna tagasi samasse kohta, vaid ka meid natuke ümber ehitada, uuendada, regenereerida meie sees. Ja hoia sellest mõttest kinni. Me läheme hetkeks tagasi Peetruse juurde ja vaatame, kus ta on.
The resurrection brings not just a restoration process in our lives, but a repurposing, a regeneration for us. But what about Peter? Let's hold on to that thought for just a moment and let's go back to where Peter is and let's see how he is.
Kus siis on Peetrus peale Jeesuse surma? Nagu paljud meist, ma arvan, et see on ka Peetrus on üks hetk, et kui sa ei ole oma tulevikus kindel, siis samamoodi läheb Peetrus tagasi selle juurde, mis ta teab. See vana, olgu see hea või halb, ta läheb selle elu juurde tagasi, ta teeb, mida ta teab ja tunneb.
Where was Peter after Jesus died on the cross? Like many of us, unsure of the future, Peter goes back to what's tried and true. He goes back to his old life. He returns to what he knows.
Johannese 21. peatükis me leiame Peetruse ja ta on läinud kalale. Peetrus, kes oli jüngritest vast kõige mõjukam mees üldse. Ta tänapäeval oleks tõeline influencer. Ta oli siuke valjuhäälne, ta rääkis valjemini kui teised, ta oli julgem kui enamus. Ta väga kaitses neid, keda ta armastab. Temaga kindlasti ei tasunud tülli minna, kui ta ei tahtnud just oma kõrvast ilma jääda.
In John chapter 21, Peter, he goes fishing. Peter, who was one of the most influential guys. He was louder than most, he was bolder than most, and probably very protective of those that he loves. Don't tick off Peter. Peter knows that he has failed.
Nii et seal me ta leiame, tal on see, kindlasti ta kogeb mingis mõttes, et ta on läbi kukkunud või ta on ikka väga mööda pannud. Ja ta läheb tagasi kalale ja mõjutajana tõmbab ka teised jüngrid endaga kaasa.
And Peter, he goes back to fishing. And more than that, he also takes some of the other disciples to join him.
Nii nad siis veedavad terve öö kalastades ja nad ei püüa mitte midagi. Ja kui ma kujutan ette seda hetke, see on kõik, mis on juhtunud, ma usun, et väga palju seal ei vestelda. Et sa võid kujutada ette neid seal kalastamas, öösel on vaikne, keegi ei räägi eriti.
So they spend the night fishing and they catch absolutely nothing. In fact, you could even imagine it being a quiet night, nobody saying anything, and they catch nothing.
Aga siis saabub koit. See on see hetk, kus ei ole veel päris selge, ei ole veel päris hästi näha kõike. Võime aimata, kus asub kallas seal paadis olles koos Peetrusega ja mida nad näevad? Nad aimavad, et seal on ühe mehe kuju.
And then the day starts to break. All of a sudden it's the first light. Not yet completely light, and you can begin to see where the shoreline is.
Nad ei tea veel seda, aga see on Jeesus, kes hüüab neile kaldalt. Ta ütleb Johannese 21:5, lapsed, kas teil on kala? Nad ütlevad ei ja ta ütleb neile, visake võrk paadi paremale küljele ja te leiate.
And what do they see along the shoreline? They see a man. They don't quite know it yet, but it is Jesus. It is Jesus on the shore, and Jesus says to them in John 21:5, he says, Children, do you have any fish? They say no. He says to them, cast the nets on the other side of the boat and you will find some.
Ja nad teevad nii, nagu Jeesus ütleb, ja hetkega on nende võrgud kala täis. Johannes informeerib meid väga täpselt, 153 kala. Nii raske on see võrk, et nad ei suuda seda isegi paati tõmmata.
He says to them, cast the nets on the other side, and they do it. And instantly their nets are full. And in John, he actually gives a description of saying there was 153 fish so full that it breaks their nets. They couldn't even pull it in.
Ja sel hetkel mõistab Johannes, kes on üks jüngritest, see saab olla ainult Jeesus. See saab olla ainult Jeesus, sest seda on varem ka juhtunud. Seda juhtus ükskord varem. Ja viimati, kui see sama ime juhtus, siis võrgud olid nii rasked, et ne rebelenesid. Ja ta ütleb ka Peetrus, ta ütleb, see on issand.
And in that moment, John realizes this can only be Jesus. This has happened before, and last time the nets also were too heavy and they ripped. It is the Lord, he says to Peter. Peter, without any hesitation, too impatient to wait, throws off his robe, jumps in and swims to Jesus.
Ja Peetrus kõhklemata, ta on liiga kannatamatu, et oodata, viskab oma riided selga, ta hüppab vette ja ta ujub Jeesuse juurde. Ja me loeme ka, et nad ei ole tegelikult tast nii kauge, nad on kuskil 100 meetri kaugusel. Nii et, aga samas 100 meetrit, ma arvan, on piisavalt pikk aeg ujumiseks. Et Peetrusel oleks ilmselt aega ka natuke mõelda. Ta võis mõelda, kui ma sinna jõuan, kas Jeesus võtab mind vastu? Ta võis mõelda, pärast seda, kui ma olen teda nii maha teinud, mida ma saan talle veel öelda?
He swims to Jesus and they're not that far out in the water. But let's say about 100 meters. And as Peter is swimming, he's probably had enough time to think about it. When I get there, will Jesus receive me?
Johannese 21:9 on kirjas. Kui nad kaldale läksid, nägid nad seal söetuld, mille peal oli kala ja leib.
In John 21 verse 9, When they had gone ashore, it says they saw a charcoal fire there with fish on it and bread.
Peetrus on, kas paned tähele, taaskord söetule ees? Ühest söetule juurest teise juurde. Ja me võime arvata, et see söetuli on natuke sõbralikum, selle peal on ometi kala ja leiba, kui see, kus ta eelmine kord oli. Aga me võime ka ette kujutada, millised mälestused see toob Peetrusele tagasi, kuidas see justkui valulgub üle kogu tema. Sellest hiljutisest reetmisest ta teadis seda ja Jeesus teadis seda.
There's Peter now. He's standing in front of the charcoal fire. And if you remember, it was also at a charcoal fire that he denied Jesus. This was probably a more friendly fire, as there was fish and there was bread associated with this fire. A little bit more friendlier than the one where he was confronted by the servant girl. And yet the memories of the recent betrayal, he knew it and Jesus knew it.
Nagu alati ei anna Jeesus meile alati päris seda, mida me ihaldame. Aga ta annab meile seda, mida meil on kõige rohkem vaja. Ja me näeme siin ka jüngritega, et nad on terve öö kala, nad ei ole midagi saanud, nad on kindlasti näljased, neil on kõht tühi. Ja see tunne nende sees võib olla väga raske. Esimene asi, mis Jeesus teeb, ta annab neile süüa. Aga ta teeb midagi veel enamat, sest Peetrusel on vaja midagi rohkemat kui lihtsalt toitu.
And like always, Jesus provides not just what we desire, but what we need the most in the moment. They had caught nothing. They had been out fishing all night, and they returned to land. They were probably hungry and tired, and Jesus has breakfast ready for them.
Pärast hommikusööki viib Jeesus Peetruse kõrvale. Nad vestlevad oma vahel. Ma usun, et Peetrus sel hetkel ta võib-olla oli isegi natuke ärevil. Aga kindlasti temas oli palju mõtteid enne, kui Jeesus temaga rääkima hakkas. Ta võis mõelda, no nii, siin me oleme. See on kõik. Siin see tee lõpeb. Nüüd Jeesus ütleb mulle, et ei, sa ei sobi jüngriks. Saame siis sellega ka ühele poole.
And after breakfast, Jesus takes Peter aside, and we can imagine Peter and imagine what he is thinking in this moment. He's probably anxious for the moment. He must have thought, here we go. This is it. This is the moment where he says, I'm not fit to be a disciple of Jesus. I'm done for. Here's where Jesus dismisses me. It's the end of the line for me. Let's just get it over with.
See on koht, kus Peetruse kahtlused seisavad silmitsi üles tõusnud Jeesusega. Ma usun, et paljud meist, meil on neid hetki ja võib-olla neid ka praegu, kus me võitleme enese sellise väärtusetuse tundega. Me vaatame üles otsa Jeesusele ja mõtleme, kuidas sa isegi saaks mind armastada. Kuidas sa saad mind vastu võtta? Kas ma pole sind mitte nii palju alt vedanud? Kas pole olnud neid kordi nii palju, kui ma olen sind isegi salanud? Kuidas ma saan talle uuesti otsa vaadata?
And this is where Peter's doubts are confronted directly with the resurrected Jesus. And like many of us, as we struggle with our own sense of unworthiness, how could Jesus possibly love me, accept me? Haven't I too also failed Jesus? Haven't I let him down? How could he still love me? After he straight out denied him, straight out betrayed Jesus, how could I look at him now? Peter must have thought.
Kas sa näed Peetrust seal seismas? Võib-olla pea isegi natuke langetatud. Oodates, mis nüüd saab. Ja selle asemel küsib Jeesus temalt hoopis väga lihtsa küsimuse. Johannese 21:15. Siimon, Johannese poeg, kas sa armastad mind rohkem kui need? Peetrus ütles talle, jah, issand, sina tead, et sa oled mulle armas. Jeesus ütles talle, sööda mu tallesid.
You can see Peter standing there in front of Jesus. You can imagine his head hung low, expecting the worst. Instead, Jesus actually asks him a very simple question. In John 21, verse 15, Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these? He said to him, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. He said to him, feed my lambs.
3 korda küsis ta temalt sedasama küsimust ja iga kord Peetrus kinnitab taas oma armastust Jeesuse vastu. Ja iga kord vastab Jeesus talle sarnase vastusega. Toida mu tallesid, karjata mu lambaid. Me mäletame, et Jeesus on see, kes on hea karjane. Aga sellel hetkel ta kutsub Peetrus kaasa tegema seda sama tööd koos temaga. Ta kutsub teda inimestest hoolitsema, neid õpetama, neid juhendama, kuidas elada elu koos Jeesusega.
3 times Jesus asked him. Every time Peter confirms. Every time Jesus is restoring Peter. Feed my lambs and tend my sheep. You see, Jesus was the good shepherd. And he's inviting Peter to join him in on the work of taking care of people. He's inviting Peter into guiding and leading and teaching them on how to follow Jesus.
See on Jeesus. Ta ei tule meid hukka mõistma. Ta tuli meid päästma. Jeesus ei kritiseeri tegelikult Peetrust mitte kunagi siin peale seda, kui see on kõik juhtunud, aga ta ei anna tema puhul ka mitte kunagi alla.
This is Jesus. He does not come to condemn but to save. Jesus never criticizes him. Jesus never gives up on him.
Peetrus näeb ennast kui, olgem ausad, mitte väga head kalameest, ta just ei saanud väga palju kala, aga ta näeb ennast kui kalameest. Peetrus kandis end maha, aga Jeesus kandis teda üles.
You know, maybe Peter saw himself as let's say, a not so great fisherman, comes back with nothing. Peter counted himself down while Jesus counted him for more.
Ülestanud Jeesus mitte ainult ei taasta Peetrust, vaid taas loob ta uueks. Ta regenereerib Peetruse, annab ta elule uue eesmärgi ja mõtte.
The resurrected Jesus doesn't just restore Peter, but he also regenerates him and gives him a whole new purpose.
Ma arvan, et tänaseks on vast selgem, et meie tahtejõust ja meie moraalist ilmselt ei piisa, et seda maailma päästa. Vaatame meie ümber. Inimkonnana ei ole me suutnud väga palju muuta. Kõige oma tarkuse juures ei ole me suutnud luua maailma, kus kõik saaksid ja tahaksid elada.
Today it's probably clearer than ever for us that our willpower and our morals are not enough to save the world, or even our own lives for that matter. Let's look around us. As mankind, we have so far failed with all our wisdom to create a better world for everyone, where everyone can have a good life.
Ja ma ei räägi mitte ainult ebavõrdsusest. Ma räägin tegelikult sellest hävingust, kui me vaatame enese ümber. Me kogeme seda iga päev. Inimesed kannatavad liiga palju. Liiga paljud elud on liiga lühikesed.
I'm not just talking about inequality here. I'm talking about the enormous devastation we experience every day. And we see it around us. People are suffering. And too many people's lives are cut short.
Inimkonnana, ma arvan, et me tegelikult oleme kõik läbi proovinud. Kõik variandid, mis üldse on. Meil on piisavalt aega, et neid kõiki läbi proovida. Ja üks tõde seisab. Meie ainus lootus on Jeesus. Ta on meie ainus lootus. Jeesus on ainus, kelle kõik sõnad, kõik lubadused, kõik teod, kõik on tõeks saanud. Kõik, mis ta lubas, see on tõesti juhtunud. Nii enese, tema enese kui ka meie endi kohta.
As humanity, all of our wisdom has been tested. And the truth is, our only hope is Jesus. Jesus is the only one whose words and promises have come true for us in everything. Jesus has proven his love for us by giving of his own life.
Ta on tõestanud oma armastust meie vastu. Rohkem tõestust ei ole vaja, ei saagi isegi küsida. Ta on andnud oma elu meie eest ja võtnud selle siis taas ülesse. Ja sellega koos alistanud patu, ka just meie patu ja surma, võtnud sellelt selle jõu.
And by taking up his own life again, Jesus has overcome all of our sin. And he's defeated all of the power of death.
See ongi Jeesus Kristus. See on Jeesus. Ta on tõesti tõusnud. Halleluuja. Ja koos temaga on see võimalik igale ühele. Temaga on see võimalik kõigile neile, kes usuvad. Ta on tõesti tõusnud. Ja üks hea uudis on veel. Tema haud on tänaseni tühi. Tema haud on tänasena tühi. Ja mida see tähendab? See tähendab seda, et ta on täna veel elus. Ja tahab olla osa meie eludest. Ja kutsub meid elama seda elu koos temaga. Amen.
Amen. This is Jesus. And he has risen indeed. And it is possible now for us to be able to be with him, for anyone who believes in Jesus. It's good news that he has risen. And I've got even better news for you, and that is that the tomb remains empty. It remains empty to this very day, which means something amazing, that he is still alive. And he's with us today, and he's ready to give us new life. Amen?
Ülistame siis teda.
Let's worship together.
I breathe in the presence of the living God, and I take in the goodness of your love. I lean in closer to my Father's heart. I trust in who you say you are. You are alive, living and breathing here in this place, speaking and healing. Your fullness and glory is right here before me. You're the living God, the living God. And I hold to the joy that's found in you alone, and I cling to the peace that won't let go. Oh Jesus, you're the only one that satisfies. I run to the fountain of your hope. You are alive, living and breathing here in this place, speaking and healing. Your fullness and glory is right here before me. You're the living God, the living God. You are alive, 'cause you are alive, living and breathing here in this place, speaking and healing. Your fullness and glory are right here before me. You're the living God, the living God. Oh, you are the living God. You are the living God. Let's lift him up. Let's worship him right now together. Just raise your voice. We worship you, God. Oh, the living God, the living God. You are the living God. You are right here before us. You are right here before us. was never gonna hold you, so it's never gonna hold me, 'cause you're the only thing holding on to me. Death was never gonna hold you, so it's never gonna hold me, 'cause you're the only thing holding on to me. I know that death was never gonna hold you, so it's never gonna hold me, 'cause you're the only thing holding on to me. I know that death was never gonna hold you, so it's never gonna hold me, 'cause you're the only thing holding on. You are alive, living and breathing here in this place, speaking and healing. Your fullness and glory are right here before me. You're the living God, the living God. Sing, death was never gonna hold you, so it's never gonna hold me, 'cause you're the only thing holding on to me. I know that death was never gonna hold you, so it's never gonna hold me, 'cause you're the only thing holding on to me. Yes. The living God, the living God.
Elav Jumal meie keskel, kirvendaja, puudutad mind sa, su autäiuslikkus siin minu ees. Elav Jumal sa, Jumal sa, elav Jumal meie keskel, tervendaja, puudutad mind sa, su autäiuslikkus siin minu ees. Elav Jumal sa, oh Jumal sa. Nüüd vabana ma elan, ümbritsetud päästjast, see surmavalla võitja on minuga. Nüüd vabana ma elan, ümbritsetud päästjast, see surmavalla võitja on minuga. Puudutad mind sa, su autäiuslikkus siin sinu ees. Elav Jumal sa, oh Jumal sa, elav Jumal meie keskel, tervendaja, puudutad mind sa, su autäiuslikkus siin minu ees. Elav Jumal sa, Jumal sa, elav Jumal meie keskel, tervendaja, puudutad mind sa, su autäiuslikkus siin minu ees. Elav Jumal
In just a moment, we'll transition and to take communion. We'll move over this way. We want to give you an opportunity to participate in communion.
hetke pärast anname siis ka teile võimaluse armulauast osa saada.
Before Jesus died, he gathered his disciples for their last meal together.
Enne kui Jeesus läks ristile, siis ta võttis kõik oma jüngrid kokku veel üheks viimaseks õhtusööma ajaks.
He asked them to participate in the fellowship of eating as a way of remembering what he was about to do for them.
Ta palus nad õhtusööma ajale, et mäletada kõike seda, mida ta nende jaoks on teinud ja meie jaoks on teinud.
Communion is a reminder of Jesus' sacrifice on the cross for us.
Leiva murdmine on see hetk, kus me mäletame seda ohvrit, mida Jeesus meie eest andis.
As we participate today, let us remember that this is in remembrance of what Jesus did.
Ja kui me nüüd sellest täna osa võtame ja kui sina osa võtad, siis teeme seda selle mälestuseks, mida Jeesus tegi.
But it's not a memorial.
Aga see ei ole nagu mälestuskivi.
Why? Because Jesus is still with us today.
Sest Jeesus on täna endiselt meiega.
And he is still at work. If you would like him, if you'd like the work of Jesus in your life, then we welcome you to participate with us in communion.
Ja ta on endiselt töös meie eludes ja kui sa tahad, et ta oleks töös ka sinu elus, siis sa oled tere tulnud võtma osa sellest leiva murdmisest.
Let's read from Luke chapter 22.
Me loeme Luuka evangeeliumi 22. peatükist.
In verse 19 it says, and he took the bread, gave thanks and broke it.
Ja ta võttis leiva tänas ja murdis.
And gave it to them saying, this is my body given for you. Do this in remembrance of me.
Ja andis neile öeldes, see on minu ihu, mis teie eest antakse. Seda tehke minu mälestuseks.
Let's take the bread together.
Võtame leiva.
Verse 20.
Salm number 20.
In the same way, after supper, he took the cup, saying, this cup is the new covenant in my blood.
Samamoodi peale õhtusööki võttis ta karika ja ütles, see karikas on uus leping minu veres, mis teie eest valatakse.
Which is poured out for you. Let's take the cup together.
Võtame koos sellest karikast.
Jesus, we just thank you for the sacrifice that you made for us.
Jeesus, me täname sind selle ohvri eest, mis sa meie eest andsid.
That we can participate in the work that you have done for us.
Et me saame koos sinuga teha seda tööd, mis sa oled meie jaoks loonud.
And God, we accept your broken body and your poured out blood in our lives.
Jeesus, me võtame vastu sinu murtud keha ja sinu valatud mere meie eludes.
To cleanse us of our sin.
Et puhastada meid meie patust.
For what you want to do in our hearts and our lives.
Ja mis sina tahad teha meie südametes ja meie eludes.
Amen.
Amen.
In the darkness we were waiting, without hope, without light, till from heaven you came running. There was mercy in your eyes to fulfill the law and prophets. To a virgin gave the word, from a throne of endless glory to a cradle in the dirt. Praise the Father, praise the Son, praise the Spirit, King of Kings. To reveal the kingdom coming and to reconcile the lost, to redeem the whole creation. You did not despise the cross, for even in your suffering you saw to the other side, knowing this was our salvation. Jesus, for our sake you died. Praise the Father, praise the Son, praise the Spirit, three in one. God of glory, majesty, praise forever to the King of Kings. And the morning that you rose, all of heaven held its breath, till its soul was moved for good, for the Lamb had conquered death. And the dead rose from their tombs, and the angels stood in awe, for the souls of all who'd come to the Father are restored. And the church of Christ was born. Then the Spirit lit the flame. Now the gospel truth of old shall not kneel, shall not faint. By His blood and in His name, in His freedom I am free. For the love of Jesus Christ, who has resurrected me. Oh. Praise the Father, praise the Son, praise the Spirit, three in one. God of glory, majesty, praise forever to the King of Kings. Praise the Father, praise the Son, praise the Spirit, three in one. God of glory, majesty, praise forever to the King of Kings. Praise forever to the King of Kings.
nii et te võite veel korra istuda, enne kui me lõpetame.
You can take a seat right before we finish.
Et nüüd see järgmine hetk, mis tuleb, on veel üks viis, kuidas me Jumalat ülistame. Ja enne, kui see tuleb, siis ma ütlen, et see on midagi sellist, mis tuleb südamest. See on midagi sellist, mis Jumal sinna paneb. See ei ole kohusetunne, see ei ole surve ega mitte midagi sellist. Aga kui me anname Jumalale oma aardest, siis see peab tulema rõõmsast südamest. Nii et kui sa oled täna siin külas või esimest korda, siis palun ära tunne mingit survet. See on neile, kelle jaoks on fookuslik kogudus nende kodu. Ja me täname kõiki, kes on toetanud kõike seda, mida Jumal läbi selle koguduse on tegemas.
Okay, so what we're talking about here is this is also what we're about to do. It's a part of the worship service. And it is, well, how would we say it's not mandatory, but it's voluntary. It's a part of our worship to God. And if you're a visitor here, you don't have to, no pressure to feel like you have to participate in this.
Nii et praegust tulevad abilised läbi, kui sa soovid toetada sularaas, on see võimalik. Kui sa tahad kasutada oma pangakaarti, siis on see võimalik seal ukse taga peale teenistust ja need, kes on kodudes, siis teie jaoks on kogu info olemas meie veebilehel.
Okay, so we are taking the offering. Feel free to participate. We will take cash, credit card, whatever the situation, bank transfer. I think we'll take pretty much anything, right, Pastor Kristen?
That doesn't sound so good.
It doesn't sound so good.
okei. Jah, oma toolidele näete, seal on ka QR-koodid, teha asju lihtsamaks, kui te soovite osa saada rohkem, mida Fookus kogudes teeb ka nädala sees või olla osa siin kõikides nendes tegemisest, siis sealt skanneerides saate kiire võimaluse leida kohe üles nii selle, kuidas kohtuda nädala sees kui ka kuidas teenida Fookuses kaasa.
And so if you want to learn more about Focus Church and the things that we do here, we've got QR codes all over the place. So feel free to scan them. It's a way to connect and find out what are some of the happenings here at Focus Church.
Ja samuti on meil siis ka kõige tähtsam asi seal olemas, palve. Ootame kõiki palvesoove. Pole oluline, kas sa siin tavaliselt käid või ei käi. Ja samuti saab palvetama tulla siia Liina-Liis juurde, kes on siin kardina juures. Temaga on ka väga hea koos palvetada.
And of course, one of the most important things that we can do, and that is to pray. And so we have people who are prepared to pray with you. Liina-Liis, who's standing by the curtains here, or is willing to pray with you after the service. If there's something burning, feel free to approach her and pray.
Ja enne ka veel, kui me lõpetame, siis tänane kohvi ja kõik väga eriliselt valmistatud head asjad on õues päikese käes. Nii et seal ärge kindlasti ära jookske. Seal on võimalus veel nautida üksteise seltskonda.
Okay, and after the service, we have some nice treats that are specially provided for you outside of the building. You don't have to run there. I think there's going to be lots. It's going to be amazing.
Aga muidugi kutsume teid tagasi kindlasti ka järgmisel nädalal, kui olete siin linnas ja saate tulla, siis järgmisel nädalal me alustame uue õpetuse sarjaga, kus me vaatame lähemalt neid väga praktilisi nõuandeid, mida Jeesus andis meile igapäevaeluks.
And of course, we would love to invite you to come back and to join us next week. We're going to be starting a brand new sermon series about the teachings of Jesus and some of the practicalities of what it means of some of Jesus' teaching.
Ja nüüd meie ülistusbänd on oma töö teinud ja meie oleme oma töö teinud. Nii et nüüd võimegi minna ja nautida seda ilusat päeva. Ta on tõusnud.
And well, I think you got that. I think feel free. We're going to be closing out the service and glad that you're able to join us. Have an amazing Sunday.